Hey, what's happening? My name is Tutu Maringula, and welcome back to another edition of Mzansi in 5. I have to tell you this, I actually wrote an episode yesterday, shot it, and halfway through editing, realized that my microphone had cut off halfway through it. So just to give an idea of what this entire process entails, it usually starts off with 4 hours of research, where I go through news articles, and I try to find the least depressing thing possible. Yeah, because I'm not a news show. I am trying to make entertainment and make people laugh. It's not entertaining to tell you a story about a father who poisoned his own children because his wife left him. And so after writing, I shoot for about 30 minutes to an hour, which is my favorite time because I get to perform. And the writing and the shooting part is fine. I've worked as a writer and as well as an actor. And so that's fun. But editing, I did like a quarter of a semester and it is grueling. Editing is like doing the dishes for 4 hours. Long story short, I do everything. I write, I shoot. Halfway through editing, I realized that the sound isn't good, which means I would have to do ADR, which is just recording the whole thing, just sound only, mimicking myself, and then adding the sound under the video. Did that up until like 8:30, and then I was like, okay, cool. Maybe let me start actually finishing the episode. And I watched the episode, and I was like, I don't like it. And that's the plight of the artist. Sometimes, and I mean all artists, I mean painters, writers, directors, musicians, even chefs. Sometimes you work on something for like 10 hours and then after 10 hours you go, nah, I need to clean the canvas. And so we're doing that right now. Some Mzansi. Okay, cool. Let's start with our favorite subject. Load shedding. Load shedding got so severe last week that during a speech that the president was giving in Durban at a government summit about load shedding, he experienced load shedding.
Just wait a second to kick in. Okay. The lighting is already kicked in, but the mic takes a bit spec now. You can continue.
Okay, I was being given lessons on how to deal with load shedding.
And nothing shows that you've experienced load shedding before more than confessing that you're being taught how to deal with it. And that's not even the worst part. Here in Johannesburg, Professor Adam Mohammed, head of internal medicine at Charlotte Macleod Hospital, has called on the government to exempt hospitals from load shedding. No shit. Mohammed said the reason for his call was that load shedding had put a strain on hospital equipment and patients' lives, while ministers were not affected. Which turns out is true. Streets or suburbs where ministers reside are exempt from load shedding for safety reasons, essentially telling us that the lives of healthy politicians are more important than the lives of the sick and needy citizens who pay their taxes. He added, during load shedding, Charlotte Macleod burns through between 800 to 900 liters of diesel a day. This translates into an expenditure of between 5 to 8 million rand a month, which all comes out of the provincial health budget. And this means that there's less than 5 to 8 million rand less to spend on patient care. And hospitals in Gauteng aren't the only ones who've been affected. Last week, health authorities in Limpopo had to cancel all elective operations due to load shedding and a lack of water at its facilities. A nurse at the Zone 13 clinic in the Vaal told the Sunday Independent that they've had situations where people stole diesel from hospital generators, which left a large amount of people's lives at risk, particularly those who needed oxygen to survive. But by all means, I get it. We need to make sure we protect the Minister of Tourism. And by the way, why do we have deputy ministers in the country? We don't need a Minister of Tourism and a deputy Minister of Tourism. Like, the only reason why we have a deputy president is that if, God forbid, something happens to our president and we need a line of succession and someone to run the country immediately. But, God forbid something happens to the Minister of Tourism, we don't need a deputy. We need a Minister of Tourism immediately. Nah, be chill. We'll be fine. It's no rush. Okay, let's talk about Hollywood. You know that place where men were doing horrible things to women that just wanted to become actresses? That's the place. So this last week, Billy Eichner's movie Bros came out to raving reviews, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, as well as a Rolling Stone article that claimed that it's one of the funniest movies in the 21st century. So to give you background about the movie, it is the first gay romantic comedy with a predominantly LGBTQ cast in basically Hollywood history. Now the movie did great critically, but did not do well in the box office. Off a budget of $52 million, the movie made $4.8 million in its first week. Billy Eichner took to Twitter to give a theory as to why the movie didn't do well. According to him, it was homophobia. So, as my therapist often says, let's unpack this. So it's important to note that Hollywood has a target age range for movie theaters, and it's under 35. Most people under 35 are liberal. Most people under 35 don't care about age, race, gender identity, or sexual orientation. They don't care who you love or who you like. They're very individualistic people. They care about what they like and what they love. Straight guys don't like rom-coms. Most of the time when you see a straight guy, or a guy in general, going to watch a rom-com, they're with a female friend, a love interest, a wife, or a girlfriend. Because I saw him blame straight men for not watching the movie. There are more women in America than there are men. So for women, because I speak now for all women, I am all women. So for women, going to watch a rom-com is a way to romanticize a perfect life with a perfect partner. And women watch rom-coms the same way that men watch MCU films. You know, you watch the movie and you're like, man, Spider-Man, bring me Thanos, you know. So they want to identify and be the character. If the characters on screen aren't anything they relate to, they might probably not support it until it comes out on Netflix. Another point, getting back to the age range. Historically, romantic comedies have been the start of the careers of all these young artists, whether it's DiCaprio, whether it's Ryan Reynolds, whether it's the chick from The Vow and The Script. I know her name. Was it The Script? I forgot the movie. I never watched it. So you can't expect an audience member of 19-year-olds to be interested in watching a 44-year-old fall in love, regardless of what their orientation are. Now, if you put someone like Tom Holland and Timothy Chalamet, you make $20 million immediately. And that brings me to the final point. I know who Billy Eichner is because I was born in the 1900s, 1995 to be exact. His biggest role to date was being the 12th lead in a show that ended in 2015. So if no one's coming to your film, it's because you're not a star. It's not about the quality of the movie. It's about whether or not you pull asses in seats. And Hollywood's been doing this for a while, where executives, producers, and actors want to get ahead of a movie's failure by blaming it on politics. Charlie's Angels, right? And I had like sort of a nostalgic feel for the original one that came out, you know, in the early 2000s. Just because we had the DVDs. So kids, once again, so back in the 1900s, we never had Netflix. You'd have a disc, and the disc would have one movie. And so you'd have to have many of those discs. And you'd come home, you'd do your homework, and then you'd put on a disc in a little thing, a little box called a DVD. You'd watch that until your mom came home at 5 p.m. and you remembered that you forgot to take the chicken out the freezer. Scary times, man. Made it through. So Charlie's Angels came out a few years back, right? I immediately bought tickets. I was going to watch it, but I knew the movie was going to fail. Why? Because Elizabeth Banks, who is a star, someone I'm a big fan of, was doing press and was saying that, look, this movie is written and directed by a woman. It's got 3 major stars that are females. It's an action flick. If you don't watch this movie and you're a straight man, then you're sexist. And I was like, that movie's going to fail. You've already attacked the audience. You cannot, as a millionaire living in Hollywood, tell someone, spend money on my film, or you are racist, sexist, ageist, homophobic, transphobic. It doesn't work like that. Like, I never watched Squid Game. Does that mean I hate Asian people? Nah, bro, I've got a PhD in Dragon Ball Z. I just don't like that particular style of film. I don't like those suspenseful thrillers where humans are killing each other to survive. I read Lord of the Flies. That was enough trauma at 14. So, once again, it's not about homophobia or sexism or racism. It's about the fact that the people that are going to theaters don't know who you are. If you had put Tom Holland and Timothy Chalamet, that movie would have been making so much back. Anyway, moving on. Finally, Trevor Noah announced last week that he would be quitting The Daily Show after 7 years to focus more on stand-up comedy. Which is ironic because at the same time, at the same moment I was announcing that I was going to be stepping back from stand-up comedy after 7 years to focus on getting The Daily Show. But no one saw my announcement because we had load shedding. It's Mzansi in 5.